Okay, I don't even know this, but are we even a podcast anymore?
I don't know. It's definitely been a long time. Do you think anyone's going to listen?
Well, I'm not sure anybody was listening before.
It's fine. We'll still have a fun time.
Yeah, that's true.
You're right, BB Nate. We will.
As always.
That's right. We haven't had much of a chance to talk about Stranger Things Part 4.
Stranger Things 4, Part 2.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to do that. Plus, there's a big DC Comics reveal this weekend that ties right into your topic this weekend.
I wrote my topic before they revealed this.
This is interesting. It's prophetic. And I'm going to make a lot of Darth Vader fans very angry this week. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the Porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that Porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen to that.
I am hanging in there.
You're feeling better than you were just a few days ago when we were at the emergency room.
Yeah,
they
was
were
always fun.
doing chest x-rays and everything else. But Sam, you have failed to get sick yet.
So far.
But tomorrow you're still going to have medical procedures.
Yay.
Yeah, some wisdom teeth pulled out. I had tonsillitis. So it's been like a month since we recorded.
It's been a long time.
It has been a while. Welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by the writer-director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, that there is a story. It is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story. And that is why we talk about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and Stranger Things and all of the other epic franchises that you guys love so much. I am David. I'm the dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hey, you guys are right in the rhythm already. Yeah. I'm honored to be joined every week by my two amazing sons. Samuel, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it feels like we waited forever for Stranger Things 4, and now we're already waiting for Stranger Things 5.
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about that on your segment.
Probably just a little
I've got
bit.
thoughts on that. BB Nate?
Well, Crisis on Infinite Earths just became way more important over this past weekend.
This is true. Very exciting.
It is very exciting. You, Dad, what are you talking about?
Well, after Obi-Wan Kenobi, I have got a theory that Vader might not be who we always believed he was.
Dun, dun, dun.
Whoa.
Dun, dun, dun. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If it has been a while, well, it has been a while if you're listening to the show, unless you went back. I mean, we've got a back catalog of like 250 episodes you could have been listening to. So if you missed us, we hope you went back and listened to those. If you're new to the show, thank you for listening to the show. We appreciate you joining in. We're going to have a lot to talk about next week. This week we're going to
after Comic-Con.
Comic-Con is
I want to go there one year. Like,
yeah,
it's always seems so cool, especially now that we're more of a general podcast.
Yeah, we'll do that someday down the road, maybe. But we're gonna have a lot. But this week we're going to talk about some things that we have got to clean up, some conversations with it. So we're excited that you're here. Please follow the show on whatever podcast app you're listening to this on. We would definitely appreciate that. Give us a rating and a review, even if you don't like us, you can give us a nice one. You can be kind, right? Constructive criticism?
Yes.
With 5 stars? With that, we've got a big announcement. You guys remember last year in the fall, there was a big potathon, 2021, raised about over $8,000 for Make-A-Wish. We had
a year?
Oh, it'll be a year.
I know. That doesn't feel like it was a year.
Wow. We had the opportunity to interview Scott Trowbridge, who was the Disney Imagineer behind Galaxy's Edge. That was so pretty awesome. It's coming back.
Nice.
September 17th is Potathon, and it's going to be all day just like it was before. 9 a.m. Eastern is when it's going to start. The goal this year, $10,000.
Let's do it.
Raised for Make-A-Wish. So we're excited to be joining Around the Galaxy and Bombad Cast and everybody else that's involved in this. Some big names this year with it.
That's exciting.
We have a guest lined up already.
We do.
He is a pretty significant person in the Star Wars world. He messaged me this week and said he owes us an interview. So if you've been listening to the show since all the way back in 2019, maybe you can figure out who that is. If not, we'll announce it sometime down the road. We're still scheduling that out to make sure that we get it recorded before Podathon. And then we'll talk live on Podathon about some different stuff as well with it. All right. I think that's enough talking about what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about.
See, you still got it too.
I'm back in the rhythm. It's like a bicycle. You don't ever forget. Anyway, ever since George Lucas introduced the rule of two into Star Wars canon, it has been assumed that Darth Vader was squarely in the position of Darth Sidious' apprentice after the events of Revenge of the Sith. But for me, after watching Obi-Wan Kenobi and thinking through some of the big moments in that period of the Star Wars historical timeline, I'm not so sure anymore.
Bulky religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
About 100 pages in to Shadow of the Sith. Yes. I'm 72% because my Kindle tells me the percentage that I'm in.
Wow, that's great.
Fancy.
And
it's weird how the old man has a Kindle and the young one
prefers the physical books.
Yeah. But I'm reading it. I'm very excited about it. Initial with non-spoilerly for Sam reactions to Shadow of the Sith.
From what I've read, it's very good. It's just immediately, I mean, you read the first chapter and it already adds so much to Rise of Skywalker and the sequel trilogy alone, and it just makes it better. And I was sitting there, I was reading it on the bus back from youth camp, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, this is just making the sequel trilogy better. And I don't know how that's possible because I love the sequel trilogy.
It's awesome.
And it's just, so cool. It's really good.
I will tell you this, if you are a fan of just about any other Star Wars timeline and period, High Republic, Clone Wars, Rebels, the sequel trilogy, the original trilogy, Rogue One, any of that stuff, there is something in that book.
That's crazy. High Republic too?
And I will just call it, I'm just going to go ahead and retitle chapter 40, The Redemption of Unkar Plutt. All right. We know that the Darth Vader of Order 66 in Revenge of the Sith is definitely Sidious's apprentice, the pre-Mustafar version of Darth Vader.
Right.
Okay. But Vader is horribly injured. He loses all of his limbs. He's a shell of his former self after his defeat by Kenobi on Mustafar. So let's set the table here. Could Vader's injuries and his defeat by Kenobi be so significant that it would ever be possible that Sidious no longer sees him as a worthy apprentice?
I definitely think so. But the whole point of the rule of two is it's never supposed to be like a set in stone thing. The master's constantly looking for a possibly stronger apprentice to take on, while the apprentice is constantly trying to find a way to usurp his master and become the master. So I definitely think that that's kind of always a bit of a dynamic that the rule of two has just inherently. But I definitely think that fact is partially at play, but I don't think Sidious would go through all the trouble of saving him, giving him this state-of-the-art suit, bringing him back to life, basically, just to say that he's not a worthy apprentice. He needs him at this point.
I agree. It's difficult to figure out whether or not Sidious feels like that. I think if you look at Legends, and just from what I know of Legends and Force Unleashed, it could definitely be portrayed that way with how Sidious reacts at the end of the game. The whole decision, follow Sidious or Vader. Sidious has already abandoned Vader at that point. And so I feel like if you look at it from that way, but that is Legends, so we don't know if that could be put into this, even though Starkiller is rumored to be in Jedi Survivor. But
which would be awesome.
That'd be fantastic. But I think that if we look at it from if Sidious doesn't see Vader as an apprentice anymore after Mustafar, that's a bit of a difficult situation because there's so much time in between, even say Kenobi and that point, and Sidious might have lost faith in between that 10-year gap of things that Vader didn't do or did do and all that stuff. And I feel like I feel like even Sidious was kind of baiting him to take over because with the Inquisitors and all that, and that's basically.
No, I don't think Sidious ever wanted Vader to take over.
No, but I think he was baiting him.
Oh, okay, to try
exactly.
Okay.
Because he knew that he wouldn't win. So
yeah, I kind of get the feeling that Sidious goes to Mustafar to try to rescue Anakin, to find Anakin or Vader at that point, and I don't think it's like a specific moment right then where he's like, oh wait, he's got no limbs. Let's I shouldn't. He's not my apprentice anymore. I think it's like he gets him, he puts him back, he starts to see how he can function in the Force and realizes this isn't Anakin Skywalker turned to the dark side anymore. This is a very different individual with different Force powers. And he's very strong, but I think it's different. Now, from my perspective, this kind of makes sense of the way Vader seems to be viewed by the Imperial leadership, especially in the original trilogy. Yes, he's feared for his power, but it never really seems that he's considered anything more than the Emperor's enforcer. In the original trilogy, nobody, drips content when it comes to Vader more than Grand Moff Tarkin with it. Why do you think that the leadership of the Empire treats Vader the way that they do?
I just think that they figure out that the Emperor is the boss, and so whatever he says is going to be true, and they've always looked at Vader as a turned Jedi, or most of them don't know that, but just a Force user that the Emperor uses to get his way, and that's what the Empire has always viewed him as. So,
but that's kind of proving the point that I'm making. They don't see this. I don't even think that they understand the rule of two or the Sith and stuff. No. But they don't have a ton of it. They fear him. I don't think that they respect Vader.
No.
In this, what do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I definitely think that you have a good point with that. I mean, even I should know what the name of the officer is, but he's like, you're devoted to this antiquated religion and stuff.
Yes, in the Death Star. Yeah,
right. They feel like all of that is outdated at this point. That he's just clinging to something that has no value anymore. They wiped out the Jedi. This whole Force thing's old hat. We've got a space station that can blow up planets, and I don't think they realize that the Emperor also subscribes to the same religion. He keeps that pretty well under wraps.
That's true.
So why would they respect Vader? He's just a glorified wizard that honestly, that the Emperor uses as a mouthpiece almost at times. So
well, it's interesting too, because if yes, they may not realize this dynamic of the rule of two and the Sith and Vader's Force ability and all of that, but if we jump back into Obi-Wan Kenobi and some of the other content that takes place between episode 3 and 4, we get the Inquisitors. With that.
Yeah.
They do understand the Force. They do understand rule of two. Many of them, I think, know Anakin is Darth Vader.
Yeah.
We get that from some comic stuff. We get that from the obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi. And in Kenobi, it feels like Vader is always trying to prove himself to the Emperor while he's propping up his image to the Inquisitors.
Right.
So he's like trying to look really great, like he's in control to the Inquisitors, and he's kind of like I don't know, the lapdog of the Emperor in this. He even builds his own castle, like he's trying to make himself look more important than he truly is.
Right.
With it, Reva doesn't really fear Vader in the Obi-Wan Kenobi. She seems to think she can defeat him. In that scene in Kenobi where the Grand Inquisitor kind of gives that sideways look at Vader, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When he's like, we're gonna go after Kenobi, and he's like, okay, like no big deal. It's almost as if he's thinking, oh great, here we go again.
Right.
This really doesn't indicate some fearful Sith Lord. Am I reading too much into this?
I mean, yes and no. The castle has actually an importance in the comic series. It's more like a tuning fork in that. So I think it's part make it look cool, but also a part that it has a function. But everything else, yeah, it does seem like he's kind of this. He's very impulsive like follow Kenobi just because he's pissed off at Kenobi. And, everything he does is there's not a lot of like planning and thought to it, which is kind of like addressed in that whole flashback sequence in Kenobi with the whole duel. He's just very impulsive, always on the offensive, never thinking a couple steps ahead, just always react. And I think he always just thinks in that moment, what's best for me, both whether it comes to the Inquisitors and making himself look good there, or pleasing the Emperor, or his own personal vendettas. So I think you've got a point in that he's kind of just always like jumping around from thing to thing like that.
Yeah, I think that he doesn't really have a guiding star. I think that he always just tries to impulsively go for something and doesn't care. And that is due to the fact that he knows his power and he knows what he wants, and he wants revenge. And at least that's shown in Kenobi. Right. And we do know that he becomes more and more kind of tuned with the dark side and more mature in it, as we see in Rebels. Definitely.
He definitely matures.
So he learns more, especially after Kenobi. And I think that's when that turning point for him, when he knows he can't beat Kenobi at that point. And so yes and no into reading into it. And I also think that just the Inquisitors, all dark side users are very full of themselves. That's just always what they have been. So of course they're going to undermine their superior no matter what. So
it's kind of like in the job description of being a Sith. So,
well, here's my theory. Okay, I think Sidious never sees Vader as his apprentice after Mustafar. I think he always sees him as being, I'm going to have this guy in the back. He's going to do my stuff. I'm going to make him think he's my apprentice. I'm not going to ever tell him he's not my apprentice. But from that point along, I think he's simply manipulating Vader while he bides his time waiting for another apprentice to present themselves. And then when Luke confronts Vader in Cloud City, Sidious sees Luke as the worthy new apprentice. And from that point forward, I think he just continues to manipulate the situation until he can turn Luke to the dark side. What do you think about that?
I just think that that's kind of what the plan has always been. Like I said, Palpatine could have been baiting him into overthrowing him, and so I think that Luke was always kind of the end goal. After
he doesn't even know about Luke
after he found him. Yes, okay. after he saw his power, and so I think that at that point, Sidious was like, okay, well, here's somebody that can replace Vader that is powerful enough to give Vader a hard time. So, and he's
barely trained.
Yeah, he's fully intact. So we can, hire him.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, like Nathan mentioned, that's kind of, what happens in Force Unleashed. At the end, spoilers, but this is like how old is this game? Like really old.
Long enough.
But you defeat Vader, and Sidious is like, either destroy Vader and follow me, or you can save Vader, and you end up getting like, you think you die. But that's the whole thing. He realizes that Starkiller is more powerful than Vader, and so he's a worthy apprentice. I had a question, as you were asking, explaining your thoughts, I was like, well, why didn't Sidious pick up another apprentice in between 3 and 6? And I guess there weren't as many Force users, especially Sith. I mean, Sith are already rare as it is, but then I guess to find one that's already more powerful than Vader, even in his damaged, weakened state, is really difficult to do. So I guess it makes sense that he wouldn't pick up a new apprentice until he sees...
Well, you just got to always remember that Emperor is the guy playing chess while everybody else is playing chess.
That's true.
He is always manipulating everybody, and that includes Darth Vader. So as we continue to kind of see how these stories get filled in going forward, I think that this would be an interesting little alternative headcanon to put in there as you watch some of these stories and see how they play out. Yeah. So pretty cool. All right.
Good segment.
Thanks. It's been a while since we've had one.
It has been a while.
It has. And it's actually been so long since we had an episode that people listening might not even remember that we started a new segment last time called Is It Canon?
That's right.
So let's see if Sam and Nate can get it right this week.
This is not going to go the way you think.
All right. So here, if you're new to this show, or it's been a month since you recorded,
here's
how this segment works. I give a description of something I found on Wikipedia.
Okay.
And you guys will make an argument for whether or not you think it's canon or legends and why. Okay. Here we go.
Ready.
All right. Here's the title, the entry. Okay. The First Jedi Purge.
Okay.
All right. So here's the description. The First Jedi Purge took place sometime after the Battle of Rakata Prime at the end of the Jedi Civil War from 394 before the Battle of Yavin until 3954 before the Battle of Yavin until 3951 before the Battle of Yavin. Okay. The Purge saw nearly the entire Jedi Order disappear from the galaxy. The Order publicly disbanded, and most of the survivors were slain by the Sith.
Can I take this first?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, no, this is definitely not canon. Just judging by how, if you look at High Republic as the source of your canon information, High Republic is set 200 years before the Phantom Menace. With Yoda and everything still there.
Yeah, but they could have obviously by the time you get things rebuilt at this point. So.
But they say that there has been peace in the galaxy for hundreds of years before that.
Well, this is 3,900 years.
Oh, you said 300.
Yeah, you said,
and that's what I back and corrected. 3954 before the Battle of
I was thinking like 300 years.
3951.
Yeah, you said 300. I was like,
Okay, so it's 3,900 years before.
Well, then that totally ruins my argument. Thanks for setting that up.
I'm still going to say...
I feel like it couldn't be canon.
I feel like it's not canon. That sounds like an Old Republic thing.
Yeah, it sounds like something that could be put in an Old Republic game for just a good story.
Very well, it could be High Republic, because that's thousands of years before High Republic takes place. We don't know what was happening really with the Jedi at that point, but... To the best of my knowledge, I don't know if we've gone back that far in canon yet. Even just a brief...
Like even a mention in a High Republic novel?
I don't know.
They've been doing so much High Republic stuff.
I know, but just judging by what I know from the High Republic and the little bit
I don't know anything now. That's the problem.
Been exposed to, they stay in their timeline pretty firmly, so...
Okay. So no on Vermont?
I'm going to say no.
No.
All right, so it's from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords.
I thought it was Old Republic.
There we go. The sequel to the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which was widely regarded as a major commercial and critical success, is Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords.
That one, that's
the original game, however, was developed by a very different company than this one. The original was developed by BioWare. According to the game's producers, the change of developers was primarily due to BioWare's occupation with other titles, such as Jade Empire and Dragon Age.
Dragon Age is big.
BioWare is understood to have been recommended Obsidian Entertainment as an alternative developer, having worked with many of Obsidian's key members when they were part of the now defunct Black Isle Studios. The Sith Lords was constructed using an updated version of the original Knights of the Old Republic Odyssey engine, which Obsidian obtained from BioWare.
Yeah, tried to get into that game. It's just
the gameplay is not.
Yeah, it's very old.
They're re-releasing for the new platforms.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's going to change the gameplay style.
It's a remaster, remake,
a completely remastered.
Really, that might get me to play it then. Even though I've been spoiled on what the big twist is.
I haven't.
Really? No, you told me.
I've stayed away.
Interesting.
All right, Shmuley.
Man, we're 2 for 2, Nate. We got this.
You guys got it. I'll have to twist it up maybe next week. Next week it'll be canon and you guys won't know it.
Right. Let me tell you, waiting all weekend until July 4th to be able to watch Stranger Things 4 Part 2 because Tristan was at work was excruciating. But in my opinion, I think it was well worth the wait that we all had to endure.
We did have to endure.
We'll share our thoughts on the series as well as some predictions for season 5 next.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
You're coming to us. Is as the footsteps of steps.
There are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
So I was at Barnes & Noble the other day, and I looked at a few of them. And one of them follows like Papa, whatever. Papa. Yeah, however you say it. Papa. One follows him, and another follows Hopper. And
really,
one of them was written by the guy who did Shadows of the Sith.
Yeah,
I did not know that there was all this like extra content for
There's
Stranger Things.
there's a comic book.
There's a Stranger Things expanded universe.
Yes, yeah.
It's like
I didn't
following
even know about it.
6 or something of the kids. Like,
Oh, wow.
06 or something.
Very interesting.
That's very cool. All right. Before we go into,
we haven't really talked about.
We
this at
really
all.
have not. I think we've
Because
all
you
been
got
like
back and he was in pneumonia and sick.
Right.
So
and I think we all like mentally were thinking save it for the podcast because we knew we were going to eventually talk about it. So first off, I want a rating of part 2, just part 2 of Stranger Things 4 on a scale of 1 to 10 epic guitar solos.
I got to think about that. You go,
Nate.
I'm really sad about Eddie, but I thought it was really good. I felt like
I need a number.
I'll give it a 9. I can't find much wrong with it. As I was watching it, I was enjoying myself. I didn't really have any complaints from it. And I felt like how, the Duffer Brothers were explaining how season 5 was going to be like Return of the King. If I compare this, it feels like a Two Towers-esque kind of setting up the finale.
It's actually really good.
Ending. It felt like Two Towers. Just kind of that okay, this is it. This is a big moment.
You don't exactly walk away from it feeling good.
No, this is like, you're like, okay, but you feel that kind of that sense of hope and like
I
just
didn't get that.
kind of encouragement. Like, okay, we're getting there. They're gonna finally defeat this, even though everything is totally destroyed. You know that they're gonna find this end.
Spoilers, by the way.
Well, yeah.
Everybody listening to this knows. We don't even.
And everybody's watched it already and just unsubscribed from Netflix. Apparently,
1 million people unsubscribed.
I'm not
Netflix.
surprised. I'm sure Netflix isn't expecting it.
That's ridiculous. Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't want to be mean.
Just be honest.
I mean, I'll give it a 7.5.
Okay.
I had a feeling.
It was good. I just wanted more revelation of that story from behind the previous seasons that I didn't get from it. I thought we were going to get it in part 2 and we didn't get it. I know we're going to get it. That's what they're saying in season 5. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, we should just wait for the Stranger Things stage play.
I'm good with that. The musical.
Yeah.
Is it a musical or a
Stranger
play?
Things,
It's
the
a
High School
stage
Musical,
play.
the musical, the High School Musical.
I don't know what it is, but it's a
musical.
stage play.
So
they do it.
All right, sure.
What would you give it?
I would give part 2. Yeah, I think I'm going to give it an 8 or a 9. Yeah. It was I don't have any complaints aside from I would have liked a little more revelations, like you said. Which we'll talk about all of that in a minute. But I am still holding out hope for a season 5. Okay. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, like I did with Book of Boba Fett. I'm not saying this is the same as Book of Boba Fett.
Well, at least Stranger Things was in Stranger Things.
Yeah, at least Elle was in there.
Right.
But I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They've still got time to continue this story. I think they know what they're doing. Would I have liked a little bit more? Yes, but I think if you look at the season as a whole, we got a lot. Speaking of which, now that we've seen all of season 4 and you've seen it all as one story, give season 4 a rating on a scale of 1 to 10 gates to the upside down.
Oh, you go for
the whole season.
The whole season 4.
Oh, I'll give it the same.
7.5.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give it that. It was good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Nate.
I don't know. I think I'd still give it the same. I feel like the entire season as a whole, even though as long as it was, there's nothing in it that I feel like could get cut out.
Yeah, the episodes didn't feel as long as the runtime.
They introduced a lot of fun characters, Eddie, and then they kill him off. But it was fun. It felt like we were going back to what Stranger Things was in the first season rather than season 3 with that. Season 3 felt really off. And so season 4 kind of added that mystery back of the upside down and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I liked it.
I will say, I was kind of teasing this earlier in previous part of the episode when we were talking. I do think that the release system for Netflix damages shows like this.
I agree.
Well, I think that's why it was.
I need personally for me, I need a chance to watch an episode and headcanon it and think about it and
have that anticipation
and anticipate it and then watch the next episode and see if I got it right and got it wrong, and just binging it. By the time I get 3-4 episodes into a binge on one of these, I couldn't really care any less about some of the stuff that's going on in this. I'm just ready to get done with it. And so I feel like it hurts, but you feel obligated to binge it because you don't want to go on Twitter and social media without getting spoiled. And so you feel obligated to binge. And I think it hurts this show.
Well, I get where you're coming from, but my counter argument is I actually really liked the way they handled this season with they breaking up the season and releasing it.
Yeah,
it was a hybrid, and I appreciate it. It still kept Netflix's normal shtick of binge, because that's kind of their thing. They release their series in a binge format, but still gave everybody time to speculate as to what that last little bit could be.
And that was the best part of this episode, of this season.
And
it was that period between.
Right, and I think they should do that again next season. Maybe even break it up like into 3 parts. You got a first act, a second act, and a third act with a week or 2 between each act or something.
Right, so you're basically agreeing with me and making my argument.
Yes,
that it
but
makes
also,
it better when you have that time.
Yeah,
between.
but I don't want them to go week by week though, or episode by episode per week. But I want you guys to compare the season to the previous season. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, Nate, but where would this one rank for you? Like, give us your tier ranking of the 4 seasons of Stranger Things so far.
Season 1 was so special, and how it completely took the world by storm. But I feel like this kind of took what that made that so great and just kind of improved on it with the longer run times, which I'm a sucker for long run times. And I feel like the character development was good in this season. I feel like of course, CGI has increased over the years. So I think I'd put Stranger Things 4, then 1, then...
You'd put Stranger Things 4 ahead of 1?
I'd say. I feel like it felt Stranger Things to me, but just a little bit improved. I'm not saying... If it could do 1A, 1B, that's how I would do it. I think I'd put them on the same tier, but we're not doing that. So, Stranger Things 4, 1... And 2 and 3 are really difficult because 2 had the weird, Elle going off and finding the other one. That didn't really work out.
It was really good.
But 3 was
weird with the mall culture.
I don't know. I'd say 3 and 2 because I feel like 3 set up 4. So I guess that's the only way I could portray it.
I'm really surprised by all of that order.
It's a difficult.
I really would have thought he'd have gone 1, 4, 2, 3.
Really?
That's really
so it was just about all off.
Yeah.
So where's your ranking?
I would go 1, 4, 3, 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I mean, and 1 is I don't think you can ever top 1. I mean, for me, 1 is like the way a lot of people feel the original Star Wars was like, where you just can't put anything. It's so special. It's so unique. I think that the fact that the kids are younger in that, there's a charm to the storyline. Yeah, the peril feels different because they're like 10,
right?
And 11 years old, and they're kids versus what they are now, which is like they're 15, but really they're 18, pretending to be 15. And so, I think the show lost a little bit of its charm as the kids aged. This is not a criticism; it's a reality of it. Our show is a different show today because BB Nate has grown up and his voice isn't.
I'm sorry,
isn't all squeaky.
And we all are a different perspective. You guys are a different people than you were when we started this show 4 years ago. And if you don't believe me, go back and listen.
No, you don't have to.
This show was just completely different.
And so part of the charm of the show, the first couple of seasons, was Nate being so young and that voice cracking and all of that.
Building off of that, I feel like it's different for you because you look at it from the stage of you're an adult and you're watching it and you're watching these kids and you have that parental kind of view on you.
And you guys are growing up with the kids.
We grew up with the characters. Yeah. That's why I love Young Justice so much because I grew up with those characters.
That's a good point.
It's a different.
Yeah, I mean, this show, we've mentioned it before. It is definitely geared towards a different age group, I think. I mean, not that it can't appeal to a wider audience. I'm not saying that there are fans of this show from all ages, but I think it has a special place in kids like from Nathan and I's generation because we wish we could have grown up in the 80s and like Nathan mentioned, which was a great point, we've grown up with these characters. I mean, granted, they kind of spurted really fast, but we have largely grown up with them. We were pretty young when season 1 came out, and now we're going through similar things. Or I'm in college now, but we can appeal. We have a different mindset to it. We can associate.
Relate.
Relate. That's the word. But do you guys think that the characters, we've talked about how they've grown up and stuff. Do you think these characters got the arcs that they deserved in this season?
That's an interesting thing. I think that I think this is the problem with binging and then not watching for 3 years and then binging. Will's brother, Jonathan. I think Jonathan's arc was terrible.
Yeah, he did end up falling way by the wayside.
His arc was absolutely terrible. I think that I think Nancy's arc wasn't that great. Nancy is that right?
Nancy Wheeler, yeah.
Nancy's the one that's with not with Steve, but with Steve, but not with Steve.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's right. I think hers wasn't that great with it. Steve is always going to be amazing. He's Steve.
Yeah, he's Steve.
With it. I think Dustin's got subverted to Eddie's in this one. He was dependent on Eddie in this one, which Dustin's one of my favorite characters in this. So I didn't like that. But and Will, it's just weird the way that they've got him dressing like he's still 11, haircut like he's still 11, and he's actually 18, 19 years old playing a 15-year-old. And it's weird and it doesn't make sense to me and it's hard to watch at times. And so it hurts his character for my opinion.
I feel like most of the characters got good arcs. Like Dad said, Steve can do no wrong basically in this show. He has a great arc always. I feel like Dustin had a good arc in this season to build off of Eddie, which I think is going to be important.
If you think about it, Dustin's arcs almost always kind of hinges off of.
Yeah, it
was Steve and now it was Eddie this season.
If you mention Dustin, it's Steve and Dustin, and now it's Eddie and Dustin, or Steve and Dustin still in this season.
Yeah,
so they always kind of rely off each other, and they make it like. In season 3, the best part of season 3 was Steve and Dustin.
Yes.
I think we can all agree on that. That was a fantastic part of the entire season. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like most of the characters got good arcs. I feel like Elle had the best arc out of this entire season. I feel like
it needs to be her story.
I feel like that whole thing was great. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like Mike had a little bit of a weird one. He was really a jerk at the beginning of the season, and then he became super empathetic like towards the end. But I guess that's just how it had to work out.
Well, that's how character development.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. No, I think you both have good points. I think there were some really good arcs. While Will did look weird, I think it was still interesting, his story. Nancy, I mean, her arc wasn't all that exciting, but I've never really been like super interested in her character. The show's never really been focused on the older kids very much, except Steve, because he's always hanging out with the kids. He's the babysitter, Jonathan, he definitely fell by the wayside, which was weird because I can't remember which season it was. Was it season 3 that he got with Nancy, or was that season 2?
That was season 3. Mm-hmm.
3. He was like super front and center, and then in this one he was a stoner and just kind of fell back. So that definitely did feel a little
Argyle
weird.
Had a great arc.
Argyle was fun. But I think Dustin's, I loved his arc, the way he felt at the end there. I think he's really going to be like this. He's going to kind of almost take over as a leader, I think, for Mike. Not that Mike isn't like doing a good job, but I think he's just so caught up with other things that Dustin, he's just going to take over. So there's still a few questions that need to be answered though by the end of this, and we'll go through these, and I want to get y'all's quick
responses.
Yeah. Who's the boss, Vecna or the Mind Flayer?
Mind Flayer. They answered that.
You think?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Really?
Did y'all not see the whole flashback sequence with Vecna in the Upside Down? Mind Flayer, right there, controlling all the Upside Down. And he even said he was called to him. So yeah, 100% Mind Flayer. No doubt about it.
Nope. I think Vecna is controlling Mind Flayer.
No.
Dad?
I think it's Vecna.
Yeah.
Did y'all watch the episode that I watched?
No.
Yes. I think Vecna is in control. Did Vecna shape the Upside Down?
I think
because it was very different.
I think it was both. I think it was the Mind Flayer with the help of Vecna. I think that they both were able to shape it. I think it was mainly Vecna due to the fact it was stuck back in time, and it was Hawkins. And I think it was that.
I think Vecna is the bad guy, and I think it's Vecna's world.
Mm-hmm. Why could Elle open a portal to the Upside Down?
No idea.
Yeah, we'll find that out eventually.
That's a question I need answered.
Is Max going to be okay?
No, but I think that her blindness, I think she's going to be blind in the next season.
That's heartbreaking.
But I feel like that'll play into Vecna. I feel like that's going to be a weapon that they can use against Vecna.
Maybe she can like see in maybe
she
upside
can
down or
see
something.
Something like that.
Like,
I feel like that's gonna be
Neo.
important. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be important.
Very much like Neo.
I like
That's
that.
exactly it.
And kind of speaking on that, how will Will's connection play? Because we saw at the end there that he's still connected to Vecna and the whole upside down and stuff.
Well, I have a theory, but it's not. Nobody likes my theory, so.
Okay. Well, we can go to that in the predictions here in a minute. Nate?
I don't know. I think we'll figure that out later.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and go into some predictions for season 5. But there was this one thing, Nate, that I want you to mention. There are some rumors and theories that Eddie will come back. Nate shared one with me the other day that's pretty interesting. Nate, can you just go ahead and go over it again, please?
I don't know all the details, like the names and stuff, because I'm not a D&D guy. But in D&D, there is a right-hand man to Vecna, and he is at first killed by bats, strangely enough. And then he gets resurrected as kind of like this kind of Blade-esque vampire slayer kind of thing, and he becomes the right-hand man of Vecna and starts doing his bidding, but eventually he betrays Vecna and kills him towards the end of his arc. I feel like that could be a good thing for Eddie because he was killed by bats. People don't want him to go, like me, because he's a great character. I don't know if I would like seeing him doing Vecna's bidding for most of it, but I feel like it could work if he betrayed him in the end, and I feel like that's what they would go with. So, but then again, it could be too predictable for people that know because it is a popular rumor right now. So.
Yeah. You think there's any credence to this, Dad, or is it just fans not ready to let go of the character?
Oh, I think it's fans not ready to let go of the character. But I do think that the connection to D&D helps make it plausible.
Would you like it if they decided
bring
to go
Eddie
there?
back? I like Eddie.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I don't think you can have Eddie kill Vecna. I think that needs to be something that Al gets the right to. But I definitely think that would be an interesting dynamic. Fans love the character so much. Having him be evil for a bit would be an interesting dynamic for that. But go ahead. Let's just go predictions. Sure to go wrong. I know season 5 is like 2 years out, so we'll probably just do this again when we start getting more stuff. But Dad, you mentioned you have a sort of theory, so go ahead and
I don't know if it's necessarily a theory. I think it's more of a wonder if this
hypothesis.
This would be an interesting twist. You all right there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good.
Pneumonia boy over here.
That lung.
Yeah, you literally cough up a lung.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that go all the way back to season 1. Will comes home from playing D&D on his bicycle, and he sees something
right
that happens to a little girl, and he has a psychotic break. And he's gone insane, and everything that you've had in this point is him like his mind is
that's
twisted.
The worst idea ever.
I know. I told you nobody likes it.
Yeah, because it's horrible. Yeah. It literally undermines everything in the series.
It's it's been a dream the whole time trope, and I hate those tropes.
It only works for Inception.
And
even then they don't answer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't like that. I feel like
I said you wouldn't like it.
Yeah, because I don't even know why you would keep like peddling it.
I'm not peddling it. You asked me for my theory.
It's a bad theory.
All right, just wrong. Nathan, you go.
I don't have any predictions, but
that's terrible. That's a terrible theory.
I know, but it's better than yours.
No prediction's better than that prediction.
Why don't we just go ahead and do a dad moment here since I'm getting thrown under the bus?
I am your father.
All right, so one of the things I love so much about Stranger Things is the character development. We've talked a lot about this. And throughout this series, we've seen characters who we thought we were supposed to hate become characters that we end up loving. Steve was the bad guy for most of season 1, but now he's kind of this like surrogate dad for a half a dozen teenagers who would give their right arm for him. And we all love him. Season 4 really saw this with Eddie. After watching episode 1 of this season, I thought Eddie was the physical manifestation of Vecna. I was convinced he was evil incarnate. He was horrible. I couldn't stand him. By the end of this season, he's the hero. So I think that there's a really cool lesson in this. It's not how your story starts. It's how your story ends. People can change, they can grow, and they should change and grow. We just have to give them space to let that happen. So,
Rip Eddie.
Well, Stranger Things 4 has easily been my favorite season so far, but Stranger Things 1 is still holds a very special place.
Exactly.
And this show is shaping up to be one of my favorite of all time. I mean, it just did something no other show's done. Now the only problem is we have to wait another 2 years for the next season, but let's just hope that Will gets a better haircut by then.
It can't happen. That's the problem with
even
it picking up
the
right
actor,
then.
the actor's
I don't
asked
know if
for
it'll
it.
pick up right then.
The actor's asked for a new haircut.
Maybe
I'm
I'll just
telling
get
you,
like one of
that's
the,
why he hasn't changed clothing style or haircut, because he's the same. He's still the 11-year-old kid. From
he needs to get like a dystopian buzz cut.
I'm telling you,
Is this just a
you
D&D
wait.
campaign? Is this just
The
Will's
Duffer
D&D
Brothers
campaign?
The Duffer Brothers are actually going to give me a phone call and they'll be like, "How did you find this out?"
So like, we need to, you can't release this episode.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so we got some movie moment stuff coming up. Got a new DC movie coming up.
We do,
and some no reason to talk about trailers. Nathan will talk about that, and some box office predictions. So we'll do that here in a second.
At last, we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last, we will have revenge.
All right, 2 new movies this weekend, even though we haven't been to a movie theater in a while. We have a lot of movies to catch up on.
Well, that's what happens when everybody gets sick.
This is true. But this first one, DC League of the Super Pets. It's about Crypto the Super Dog and Superman are inseparable best friends, sharing the same superpowers and fighting crime in Metropolis side by side. When Superman and the rest of the Justice League are kidnapped, Crypto must convince a ragtag shelter pack, Ace the Hound, PB the Potbelly Pig, Mern the Turtle, and Chip the Squirrel to master their own newfound powers and help them rescue the superheroes.
Nice.
The director is Jared Stern and Sam Levine. The cast is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Kevin Hart, Vanessa Bayer, Keanu Reeves, and Diego Luna. Keanu Reeves is Batman. The studio is Warner Brothers. It is rated PG for action, mild violence, language, and rude humor. Going yes or no?
I'm going to make you answer this question. You're the DC guy.
Not sure.
Why?
I mean, it's cool that they're bringing, Ace the Bat Hound in and Crypto, but all these other people are not existing in DC.
No.
I mean, they have a couple, but they don't even have like the alligator from the Super Pets, which is weird. And they don't have the Bat Cow, which is a thing.
Yeah.
The Bat Cow is a thing. But I mean, of course I'm gonna see it. Because it's DC.
You're just not sure how you feel
I'm
about
just not
seeing
sure.
it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure if it's gonna be a priority to see.
Okay,
it. Like, I'm not sure. Like, we have this and Minions and Elvis to go
Minions
see.
or Elvis.
Oh yeah, I know.
And so I'm not sure where this is gonna.
Somewhere
rank
along the line, I've got to go see that Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris
you
with
do.
Mom.
have fun with that one.
Yeah,
All right, and this one actually interesting little tidbit of trivia I'll give afterwards. But it's Vengeance. It is a darkly comic thriller about Ben
Manalowitz.
Okay,
Good job.
A journalist and podcaster who travels from New York City to West Texas to investigate the death of a girl he was hooking up with.
Oh wait, I think I saw a trailer for this one.
I saw the trailer too. It actually looks good.
Yeah.
The director is BJ Novak.
Yeah.
The cast is BJ Novak, Ty Shaw, Doug Cameron. It is the studio is Focus Features. It is rated R for language and brief violence. That little tidbit is this is BJ Novak's first movie he's directed, but he has directed a lot of the episodes of The Office because that's
very different than
Ryan Howard from The Office, but he also wrote a lot for The Office as well.
Right.
Going yes or no?
This is one of those that's kind of on the edge. It's that rated R, but it's rated R for language primarily, and we've heard bad words before.
Yeah.
We don't use bad words. So.
I watched the trailer. And it does look like a lot of fun.
I'm curious about this one. It sounds like a really interesting premise. The fact that it's kind of connected to a podcaster makes it interesting too.
And I mean, we can vouch for BJ Novak because he's. I mean, from what I've seen, he's great.
Definitely,
he's a great actor too. So
I remember seeing the trailer for this and thinking that actually looks pretty fun. The whole Texas element of stuff too looks like a lot of fun.
Trailers, just gonna skip it because we're recording before San Diego Comic-Con has all that, and all the good trailers will come out.
But there was the Rings of Power thing that came out.
Well, they're going to be doing more Rings of Power.
I know, but that one was cool.
Yeah, so we're just
that one's getting like thumbs down.
I know
on YouTube
everybody's
like
so
crazy.
I hate it.
Everybody's just.
I think it looked great.
Everybody's saying it's woke
everything
for no
looks
reason.
Great.
There's no reason that it's woke. Literally, it's frustrating. But for box office predictions, since we're recording before the weekend, Nope.
Not going to see it.
The 55 million domestic. Now that's not great.
I think I would shoot higher. I would almost guess like 70 or 80 for this movie based on the response it's getting right now.
I definitely have to say 70, 80 because I look for the Oppenheimer teaser because and like somebody was like, oh my gosh, just saw it again, but that was my second round of Nope. I'm like, you saw it twice and it's only been out for evening. So a bunch of people are going to see it. No,
not interested.
I found the Oppenheimer teaser on like a grading video. Yeah. But Thor: Love and Thunder, 20 million domestic. Can we talk about how this had one of the biggest second weekend drop-offs in the history of the MCU?
Well, that was last week.
I know, it was. It
was
went
pretty
from
surprising.
345 million or something like that down
Worldwide.
to like 45 million. That is terrible. And that is something we've been seeing with the MCU happen in the recent movies.
I think MCU is living off of their reputation.
They
so
are.
The first weekend of a lot of these movies, they're doing great. I mean, it was fine. We watched it. We haven't really had a chance to talk about
we
it.
haven't.
It was a good standalone Thor movie. It fits within the Thor world. I mean,
It was fine, but that's it. It was just fine. And that's kind of what we can describe as phase 4 of the MCU right now. Everything is just getting set up and we don't know.
I just feel like it's spinning its wheels, not getting anywhere.
And I'm crossing my fingers that when this is released, we have all those answers, because Kevin Feige said that.
Well, we also need to admit we haven't been able to finish Miss Marvel because literally we've been quarantining in other rooms.
Yeah, but I don't think the entire fate of Phase 4 of the MCU should be dependent on
from what I know, from what I got
one show.
spoiled, it just sets up more stuff.
Okay.
And so but Minions Rise of Gru, 18 million domestic.
Yeah, that's
good job.
It's good.
Yeah,
We'll see how it is.
surprisingly well.
You got to keep going.
Yeah, we do.
Good job, BB Nate.
Good job.
Yes.
going.
Well, Dad and I finally made it to the Crisis on Infinite Earths arc in the CW DC shows.
We did.
And it was as good the second time as the
That's
first.
what happens when you're both sick at the same time.
exactly.
At the same thing.
We
So
can
you go
literally
into the
watch
same
all
room
5
and we-
episodes in one day.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering why they changed so much from the comics.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
That man has no limits.
Some of you were like, man, I really want to read like these Crisis stories in the comics, but I have no idea where to start. Where would you point them to?
Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's the first Crisis. In
You
DC
don't need any other ancillary beginning comics to. You can just jump right in.
This is a watershed moment when you get like the big moment. Like everything changed in DC Comics.
Everything
at Crisis on Infinite
Yes,
Earths.
this was a humongous deal.
Were they trying to do that in the CW?
They were. And they did.
They did.
Whether
yeah,
good
did.
or bad.
You're right. They did.
Whether good or bad, it's up to everybody, because, we'll talk about it in a little bit. But yeah, first off, Dad, what did you think of this arc?
I'm trying to remember.
Compare it to CW. On CW standards, what did you think of it?
Because it was great on a CW standard.
Exactly.
I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was
cameos.
It kept
and
me
a few of the
going.
episodes.
I was sick and I still paid attention with binge watching, which is not what I do good with.
Exactly.
So that was great. It did feel like this was like CW said, we need our Infinity Saga moment.
It was.
And they decided to take this. Were any of the, I need to understand if there's any connection, any similarities at all to Crisis, the comics.
There's a few. It's different. The similarities really stop at the name and some of the characters. We have the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and Pariah, which Pariah is a big deal, and I'll talk about that later, are all introduced in this arc and in the comic series. But other than that, the show and the comics don't really align.
Okay, so the characters are in this, so it's clear they're trying to bring that. You would think they're trying to bring that story into.
Yes.
The Arrowverse, but the Arrowverse is such a different universe from everything going on in the comics that it's a very different story as a result. Is that's kind of what's going on? Okay.
It just because you can't do what DC did with the comics to put it into CW. It's difficult because CW has just taken so many liberties by themselves on what they do, and that's fine. That's CW. And you do what you want. That's the beauty of a multiverse. And I feel like that works better for DC right now than it does for Marvel, even in the CW universe. But There are a few big differences. The first big difference is Oliver Queen dying and becoming the Spectre. That was a giant change due to the fact that the Spectre wasn't a big part of the comic series at all. Even though I love the character and they even made it weird in the show, the Spectre is very different from what they do. The Spectre is
that where the meme, like, do you trust me? And he said, with every like atom in my body, or
with every
like
cell
that?
in my body. Yeah, that's where it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's from the Crisis on Infinite Earths. But the Spectre is, they had Jim Kerrigan in Purgatory give his power to Oliver Queen, and that's not how it works at all in the comics. Like, when I first watched it, even I wasn't introduced to Spectre all that much before seeing this, and even then I was just like, what are they doing? Because the Spectre is God's chosen vessel of judgment on Earth. And
we've talked about this going back to Moon Knight and comparing some things with
they're
that.
very similar, but this is not Spectre.
I'm going to be honest with you, I made no connection to that character at all.
Really?
When we were watching this, I made no connection to the conversations we had about
Oh, no. They're completely different characters. And that's what... But it was still exciting to see them mention Spectre. And I also liked how Oliver Queen was him. I feel like Oliver Queen character in Crisis on Infinite Earths was a lot of fun.
He's a good character.
Yeah, he's a good character. This next one, Supergirl not dying, or at least from one of the Earths. This is a big part of the comic series and gave us one of the most famous comic panels of all time, courtesy of George Perez, who sadly passed away a few months ago. It was also a big plot point that drove Superman more in the story from that Earth. I mean, you had
But this isn't Superman's
No, I mean, you had
universe.
that classic panel where Superman's holding Supergirl in his arms. And like
I've seen that panel.
It is so famous.
I know what you're talking
and they
about,
kind of they had a little Easter egg. I think it was at the beginning of episode 4 or something, where Supergirl was holding the paragon of Superman, and it was like on the camera for like half a second. But even then, that's not a big deal to the plot, and it's just a little homage to it, and it felt really weird. And this next one was a huge deal. The Flash had a much bigger and more dangerous role in the comic.
Really? In the comic?
Yes. The Speed Force had a much bigger role than what little we saw on the show. I mean, people got trapped in the Speed Force, and that's how he was able to figure out how to defeat the Anti-Monitor, which they kind of put into the show, but not to the extent that it was in the comic, even though the Speed Force did give us some cool moments, like Grant Gustin's Flash meeting Ezra Miller's Flash.
It's so weird. We're just sitting there watching, and all of a sudden Ezra Miller's in the screen, standing there talking to Grant Gustin, and I'm like,
so that means that they could easily bring Grant Gustin into the Batman.
That was why it was difficult when you gave me that topic idea. I couldn't talk about it because I didn't want to spoil it. But I'm like, this is why it makes the most sense for Grant Gustin to be in there, because it's so easy for that to happen. And even it's in canon now. Even if you look at, like, ask people, the way that Ezra Miller got the name The Flash was from Grant Gustin.
Well, that's exactly what happens in this.
Exactly.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yes, because he's like, there's another Flash. He's like, who are you? He's like, what's the Flash? Yeah. And he's like, Flash.
So he gets the like idea for the suit and all that too?
No, he's wearing the suit.
He's part of the Justice League, but he doesn't have the Flash name yet.
Oh, that's true. He's not called anything
So
at
he
that
learns
point.
that from Grant Gustin's Flash, and that's
actually kind of cool.
So yeah,
I like
it's pretty
that.
cool, and I hope that's why I really want Grant Gustin to be in the Flash movie, because it was important.
That's pretty cool.
But Sam, like you found out, these are some big moments and plot points that they just changed. Do you think the art could have been worse if they followed the comic series more closely?
Nate's triggered over here.
I know you haven't seen it or read the comics, but do you think it would be better if they followed the comic?
Well, I think it's tough because the certain characters that are a big deal in the comic aren't in this. Like, to my knowledge, Batman's not in here, and I'm pretty sure he's a big deal.
No, he was a big deal. Mm-hmm.
Superman, he's not really in the CW verse. He was?
He was a part of this.
Okay. Well,
but they have to take him out.
They did.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
with
certain
key
players are not on the field the way that they could be in the comics,
And
which already screws them over.
And another huge thing, the Legion of Superheroes. Big deal in the comic series.
But they haven't even gotten established in this.
I mean, the only one from it was Brainiac 3, or Brainy from Supergirl. That's the only Legion of Superhero we saw in this entire thing. He had the little ring and all. That was cool. But like, they were such a big deal in the comic series. So it was weird. But Dad, was there anything out of these that you would have liked to see in the show? Like more use of the Speed Force or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm surprised by that, because Flash is the central character in the Arrowverse right now, even though it's the Arrowverse.
Well, the Arrow's done.
Well,
so.
yeah, I think that they wanted to try to try to make this happen in the CW series, and they had to, like you were saying, Sam, they had to put they had to play with the players on the board,
right?
With it, and it made it more challenging storylines that were in there. They'd been trying to set it up for a long time, and it was great for somebody that maybe didn't have any knowledge of the comics, but it was definitely interesting watching you watch it, especially now because I think you're even more familiar with the comics. I
watched Crisis on Infinite Earths before I read the comic series the first time.
So what was your opinion before?
I thought it was fun. I was like, okay, this is really good for CW. I'm like, this is a really well done show for CW, because I exposed myself to Arrow, to Supergirl, to Legends of Tomorrow, and to Batwoman all before watching the arc, because I looked up and researched the main episodes, and Batwoman was the last show I watched before it. So yeah, I had something easy to compare it to, but I just think that overall it's a fun arc, and if you kind of separate it from just comparing the similarities to the name and just completely forgetting that there's anything comparing to each other, it can be a lot of fun. But a couple more things. First of all, this is really only for Dad, but do you think that the Flash has started to decline, in your opinion, post-Crisis?
Well, the first episode after was terrible.
What was that one?
That was the date episode.
That wasn't the first one.
Okay, that's the first one I'm thinking of. The dating, Valentine's Day episode was terrible.
I think that's the lowest rated episode of the entire show.
And I'm not surprised. It was
Did
really
he sing
bad.
though?
No, but he did quote lines in the Crisis.
In the Crisis, yeah,
he quoted lines
from the song,
and I really wanted him to sing it. But anyway, and thank you. Now I'll have the song in my head all
You're
night.
welcome.
Want me to sing it right now?
No.
We don't need to scare the people back. If there's anything that we could have, if they can do differently. I think they've got to reset. Everything is upside down now. It's a completely different world. They did reset the entire Arrowverse.
I mean, they even gave the Flash an intro sequence, which we haven't had.
That's weird.
What?
It feels a little strange. No. But I didn't add this to my notes, but because I wrote my notes before it actually happened, the announcement, but Dark Crisis had a panel at San Diego Comic-Con, which I always thought was a little weird. I'm like, okay, they're going to announce something here, because I have a panel for a comic series that's already running, and everybody got an awesome Dark Side pin, which
you didn't, because you didn't go.
No. And they're like giving pins out at all the big panels, like Nightwing pin they gave out.
That's so cool.
Dark
I
Side
love that.
pin and all that.
Nightwing. But, is it the Nightwing from like the comics, or is it the Nightwing from the new game?
It was a comic, but they're the same symbol. It was a Nightwing.
Because Christopher Sean plays the Nightwing from the new game.
Yeah. And they released Gotham Knights.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know he was voicing that
gameplay for Batgirl.
He played Kaz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did.
But Star Wars. He's a pretty cool guy.
He was one of the voices in Visions too.
He was. Yeah.
So Christopher Sean's an awesome guy.
Yeah. There was an announcement during the Dark Crisis panel where they announced that the official name for Dark Crisis, which it hasn't been Dark Crisis. No, it's Dark Crisis on Infinite Earth.
No,
I know, it's crazy. This is an actual sequel, a exact sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, every other Crisis has just been a big event, but not a direct sequel. And I always knew it was kind of a direct sequel because of the villain. The villain is Pariah, who wasn't exactly a bad guy in Crisis on Infinite Earths. He was just somebody who was plagued for eternity as a punishment to watch Earths and things.
Which is what happened in the Arrowverse.
Yes.
It's like the Watcher, kind of?
Yes, but he's plagued to watch great tragedies, like Earths die, and just like all that happened.
As a punishment.
Okay.
And now his whole goal in Dark Crisis is to replace this multiverse with his own version of a Multiverse 2, where he comes from.
So they're resetting everything.
So you're telling me
yes,
that there are more multiverses?
Yes, actually.
That's called the Omniverse.
Yes, exactly.
I'm so confused.
And so we got an announcement. It was
the fact that I know that right now is pretty cool.
Is there a universe where the multiverse doesn't exist?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's the CW shows post-Crisis on Infinite Earth. Literally, it is.
You got Earth Prime, and that's it. But but it's now Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. They kind of spoiled what's going to happen, but apparently Pariah's going to win halfway through the comic series. He's going to...
It's like Infinity
He's
War.
going to introduce the Infinite Earths back into DC, which we haven't really had, because after Crisis on Infinite Earths, it kind of was reduced down to a few planets. And then New 52 hit, and it's just been 52 planets since then. But now we're getting every single Infinite Earths back.
So basically, this is just for the writers, so they can say, go crazy.
Yes, and issues 1 through 3 of Dark Crisis are getting reprinted. With the new
covers.
title.
You got to get those, bro.
But the thing is that I'm like I have the original ones. That's pretty cool.
but you got to have both.
I know, but issue 3 hasn't released yet, which is really weird how they're having to reprint it, which I think Dark Crisis 3 releases in 2 weeks. But I'm super pumped that they've decided this, and it's changing everything in DC. And they had an interview and they're like, the last issue has a giant battle, which he's like, it's the most emotional thing I've ever done for DC. He's like, it's crazy. He's like, it's gonna be great. So
That's
I'm super
awesome.
excited. I'm
very cool.
I'm happy that we're doing.
I'm so glad we watched Crisis on Infinite Earths,
Right.
and that we planned on talking about it
I
on this
know,
episode.
and then it just happened.
before any of that happened.
Exactly.
Because it would look like it. I promise. This was already written. The script was already in place. The notes
We're
were already
looking
in
at the
place
notes, and it said it was edited
before they
9
made this
hours ago.
announcement
Right,
with
yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
we're recording Thursday night. But anyway,
exactly. But to wrap it up, the Flash was always building to this crisis ever since the beginning of the show.
It's
with
lost some
the
momentum.
Flash missing and vanishes in Crisis and all that stuff. And now that it's done, I'm completely blind to what happens in this show since I haven't seen anything past that point. It's an exciting thing, but it's also a little worrying because I don't know if what's coming up is good or not. So let's just hope that the poster for season 7, it doesn't indicate the quality of season 7.
Ouch! I'm afraid to look it up. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Yeah, Disney Plus adds R-rated Marvel movies: Deadpool 2, and Logan.
It was a matter.
I mean, when they implemented the whole parental lock thing for the Defender
Daredevil.
saga and stuff, it was only
Those are
about time.
R-rated or beyond. So.
Yeah.
So
I did love Ryan Reynolds' post though about how it's like some of the movies should have been R-rated already.
Like
that was
Bambi.
great for the trauma. But DC Comics Blue Beetle wraps production in Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah.
So
I've seen images
that's
of the
other
suits.
trailer that we'll get during.
We could get that trailer.
We're getting that
Yeah.
trailer. We have to.
And maybe Batgirl.
And Batgirl. We'll probably get those too,
yeah.
because those are important. But I'm excited for Blue Beetle. I saw that costume. Spot on
good.
with
Really?
comics.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Spitting image. And same with Batgirl. So it's great.
Awesome. Star Wars Skeleton Crew season 1 budget will be larger than the Mandalorian's budget. Season 1.
They're
budget.
really banking
They
on
have
this.
Jude Law.
That's exactly right. He's 2/3 of the budget. Right
Good
there.
point.
With it, he's a very handsome man.
You think so?
Yeah.
Some people think. Never mind.
Let's just move on.
That got weird. All right.
That's why we're ending.
Why don't we end this episode?
It's a good idea.
That's good. Thanks for listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast. I mean that. Thank you.
Yes, if you had a good time listening, hopefully you did. It would be awesome if you could share this with your friends.
Yeah, and remember that the show, it's only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world. So if you enjoyed this craziness for some reason and you want more, be sure to like us on Facebook and join our Facebook discussion group. And you can follow us on Twitter as well. Do all that. You can get in on all the action and keep up to date with everything we've got going on at TatooineSons.com.
That's right. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss our next episode coming out a week from today, which will be
San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, it's going to have
It's
a lot
just
of
that.
It's
Pretty
basically
much.
San Diego
I'm
Comic-Con.
talking Rings of Power. That's my
DC,
segment. Finally, I
finally.
can talk about something Lord of the Rings.
I'll
on
do
my-
DC and you'll do Marvel. So
We
gotta do
got
Star
to
Wars
find some
something.
Star Wars in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you could also give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever. Thank you guys. I didn't realize that we had gotten ratings and reviews on Spotify. I don't get notified of them until then I saw it the other day. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
For doing that. Or whatever other podcast app that you prefer. Okay. I think that's it. Anything else you guys like to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.